Hello there.
General Kenobi.
Dude, seriously. That's the wrong line, and this is the intro, remember?
Oh, right. Welcome to the Discussion Alliance.
We cover the latest topics and news from all corners of the Star Wars universe. So grab your blue milk and keep your seals tight, because we've got a lot in store for you today. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Discussion Alliance. My God, we're on our second episode.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
But heck, this is what we committed to, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, you know us. I'm Aidan.
And I'm Kyle.
And today we're going to be talking about some really good stuff that we've been really interested in talking about.
Yeah. Do we want to... Let's start off with the news, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we found some really neat stuff that we're excited to share about today. It's, of course, news. It's practically the most recent stuff. Star Wars, of course, is always coming up with new stuff.
Yeah. Now, this first article in recent news, back on April 7th of 2023, I know it's been a month since this was announced, but anyway,
Still very relevant.
yeah. So back at Star Wars Celebration Europe 2023, it had been announced by Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy that 3 new live-action Star Wars films are on the way. And from what we know, the people helming these movies, or set to direct, at least that's what I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
What they mean by that. There's James Mangold. He's been the director for Marvel's Logan, as well as the upcoming Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Dave Filoni, as who we all know for working on The Mandalorian, the upcoming Ahsoka series, as well as Clone Wars and Rebels. And then there's the third director is, oh man, I'm gonna probably butcher
I'll
this,
give it a shot.
this name.
I think it's Charmin Obey-Chinoy. Oh boy, I already know. Never mind. That may have been wrong.
Please forgive us. Yeah, that's a really difficult name. Well, anyway, so what's been told to us is that Mangold's movie is going to be back during the Dawn of the Jedi, so like way back.
Yeah, Old Republic stuff. That stuff sounds exciting. I mean, I know we briefly touched stuff about the 3 new movies last episode, but this time we wanted to go more in detail. I looked up some stuff about Mangold, and with his movies such as Logan, he has a good track record for that. I'm going to double check some of his other stuff.
Yeah.
I remember there were some other ones that I was really excited for. So yeah, he did. Oh yeah, so he did Logan, and he did the Wolverine movie, and one of my favorites, Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh, haven't seen that one yet.
Fantastic movie. So just off those 3 movies, I am very excited for what he comes up with, especially since something like the Old Republic is brand new territory for Star Wars movies.
Oh yeah, like the only time I think they've touched on the time of the Old Republic would have to be some of the old Star Wars games. I think it was the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that stuff.
Oh yeah. Like, let's see. And so and then Filoni will focus on the New Republic, and is planning to close out the interconnected stories that are set in Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and some of the other Disney Plus series out there.
Yeah, we'll see what they come out with. That's going to be interesting. Like, The Mandalorian, of course, as we've known, it's a TV show. It's going to be weird. I unfortunately think it's going to be weird putting that all together in a movie. It sort of reminded me a little bit of like when they first did the Clone Wars movie. Like that,
Yeah.
like
Also,
that was their original 4 episodes, like their first 4 episodes, and they decided to put them all into one big movie.
Yeah. Also, apologies for anyone listening. My dogs are going crazy right now.
It's totally fine.
Well, yeah, I saw this Clone Wars movie quite a while ago, actually.
I had no
But I
clue it existed at first. Like I only knew the show because when I first watched the show, like when I like obviously it was on Cartoon Network originally. When I was like binge watching stuff was when it was back on Netflix originally. I remember I was like super mad originally when they took it off Netflix because it was going to Disney Plus, but of course now I have Disney Plus now and it works out. But I remember seeing on Netflix, like I saw the Clone Wars show 1 through 6. And I was like, but then there's like this thing called the Clone Wars movie. And I was like, this thing has to be a ripoff. And then because it was like it was a single movie and it came out a year before the original show, and I was like, this cannot be right. And then I watched it like just something like 2 years after I finished watching seasons 1 through 6. I watched it and I was like, this is a real thing, what the heck. And I actually enjoyed it to an extent. It's not perfect, but it's fun.
Yeah, it was an interesting introduction to just the events of the Clone Wars. Yeah, I didn't realize that movie consisted of like the first original 4 episodes of the series. Yeah. That's surprising.
Anyways, continue on. The last director.
Anyway, with Obade Chinoy, oh boy, screwing that up still. It's gonna be a film set after the events of Rise of Skywalker, and we'll have Daisy Ridley coming back as Rey as she rebuilds the new Jedi Order. Now, I heard about that before we decided to do this podcast, and I'll be honest, I'm very skeptical.
No, definitely. I mean, I feel like this will be cool this could be a really good chance, especially since it's just a single movie. This isn't like a trilogy, at least that we know of. Could be a good redemption movie for Rey's character. I mean, there's a lot of cool potential, a lot of cool parts as Rey as a character within the sequel trilogy. But I'm not going to go deep into it, but the way that trilogy turned out, it's definitely a bit of split amongst fans about whether she's a good character, whether she's bad. And so I hope this is better. I totally agree with the skeptical part because Obed Chinoy, I mean, when you look up her name, it doesn't, compared to Dave Filoni or James Mangold, it doesn't say a TV producer, doesn't say a movie director. It says a journalist. And the only reason that concerns me is because her track record is a lot of really interesting stuff about a lot of TV and movie documentary stuff about historical events and even modern social issue stuff, which is great. I'm not sure how well that'll translate over to Star Wars, though, because she doesn't have a track record of creating like action or drama movie stuff. And I'm worried this might end up as like, another person leading the charge who hasn't seen Star Wars. For all I know, she could be a huge Star Wars nerd, but it's skeptical. And so I'm not writing it off completely. Like I know some people have already, but it's definitely like I'm on the fringe.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, and according to her IMDb, aside from being the director of Miss Marvel, she's been a director for quite a few shorts and all that, as well as some films that I have never heard of.
No, yeah, I mean, a lot of it, yeah. We don't need to go into too much detail about that.
But yeah, we don't need to go into too much detail. But yeah, there are 3 new films being made, all being done in different timelines.
Yeah. It'll be exciting.
Okay, not timelines, but like in different spots of the timeline.
Yep.
That's what I meant.
Well.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's the other thing we wanted to quickly go over
Oh yeah, and
was,
other news.
I believe it was
there.
I forgot if it's you who brought. Yeah, you brought this up, so you lead it off.
Yeah, and other news on the 28th of April. So this is still relatively relevant. Star Wars Jedi Survivor came out. Yay! Oh man, and it's like this is another game that I've been highly anticipating for quite a while, even before I played the first one.
Yeah, I'm really excited to jump on this for sure. It's definitely had a ton of praise for its visuals and its story. I have seen some things about there being bugs and whatnot, but like I've heard
that
that
was
that like
like
hasn't been a massive issue. And so like other than that one small thing, it's been
Yeah.
all amazing praise for the game.
Yeah, and I've heard that this one like takes place 5 years after the first one. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
really hope to pick this up soon and get playing.
Yeah, I'm come to think of it, I'm actually replaying Fallen Order at the moment with New Journey Plus, the an update that came out like I feel like May the 4th, 2019. No, it was 2020 actually, and it was like, oh, you can play the game now with all this stuff. Like, you have everything unlocked. You have a new outfit, and there's also challenges and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh yeah, okay, I'll give this
I'm gonna
another
be
try.
honest though, I never finished Jedi Fallen Order. It was because oh my god, I really enjoyed like the first handful of levels, and if I were to go back with it, I'd probably really enjoy it. There were some levels like I'm forgetting the names, but whatever that one level where like where you're going through the mountains and stuff, it's snowing, you're dealing with like
Oh yeah.
that whatever that level, and then the one level with like the temple guards and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's because if there's a difficulty mode, I think you can adjust the difficulty in Jedi Fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I believe I put it at max for my first playthrough.
Oh no.
I don't know why, and so I pretty easily could have destroyed a TV and controller. I didn't end up doing it, but I totally backed away from it, and it's giving me PTSD. I sort of like what you said about a replay through. I should definitely go back and put it on the easiest mode possible so I can enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's also the fact that that Respawn Entertainment was for the developers behind it, and it's like, because those guys are pretty well known for games like Titanfall and Apex Legends.
Yeah.
More so Apex Legends than Titanfall, but I have been seeing a lot of, not a lot, but like, I still see that the Titanfall community is still pretty strong.
No, yeah, again, well, not again, but I personally I've never played Titanfall. I've looked at it and I've like, that's super cool. But yeah, it's not, from what I've heard, it's not like the biggest community, but I know some friends who are like really passionate and they love that game. So, yeah.
Yep, it's a fun game. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, folks, that's your episode news right there.
Yep. Now, onto the real meat of the story. So, this is something that I completely didn't think about and that Kyle just came to me about for this episode, but the original cuts for the original trilogy, episodes 4 through 6.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I thought about, was because we're trying to make things interesting, is I thought about the fact that when you go onto Disney Plus or you buy a Blu-ray, a 4K Blu-ray, or even, I don't know about the DVDs, maybe, but when you buy or you watch through Disney Plus or you rent the movie, whatever, if you watch any of the original trilogy movies now, they're all the remastered versions, which I believe started in, 1997, up into the early 2000s, which is when they began to phase out the original movies. I believe my parents have the old versions on VHS.
Oh yeah, my dad
The
has.
problem is that we can't watch them because we don't have a VHS player anymore. and even then, like I've looked at like, is there a way to like copy it over to like a USB drive or something like that? And like you have to get something really special to do that. So something I thought would be interesting just to go over is just the fact that like I for one as a fan would think it'd be really cool if they like on Disney Plus had like original version and remastered version. Like I'm gonna go into something different. Like if you think about Call of Duty, like I'm thinking of something very specific. Like they have Modern Warfare, and then they made Modern Warfare Remastered. They made Modern Warfare 2. This is 2009, and then I believe it was 2016. They came out with Modern Warfare Remastered 2. Or we think about Halo. They came out with Halo CE in 2001. They came out with the remastered version
in 2011.
2011, and then they did the same thing for Halo 2, and then Halo 2 Remastered. And I know those are video games, but my point being is that you have access to the remastered version, and then you have access to the original version. And the problem with the original trilogy is that we only have access to that remastered version, and I feel like it's really hard. Like I remember from when I was little, when I watched the VHS ones, like there was no when they're driving through Mos Eisley with in A New Hope when Luke is brought with Obi-Wan. This is like, these are not the droids you're looking for, seeing that sort of stuff. There weren't all these animals and creatures walking around. It was just everything fit. And I'm not saying it's not cool that they added that, or in a Return of the Jedi that they added in a new CGI Jabba the Hutt. It's just these sort of things you can tell like don't fit in the movie. It's just because they were layered on afterwards. And so,
and at the time of making those films, the technology wasn't advanced enough to fulfill George Lucas's original vision.
Well, yeah, totally. But I sort of wish, like we could still at least see what the original ones were like, versus we now only have access to this, I'm going to call it like tainted version, which it isn't bad. I think it just, or like you've heard about McClunky, right? With Greedo.
I feel like I have.
So
but
pretty much for some reason, they added it so that when Greedo dies, he says McClunky. I have no clue why, but they just added a voice line and stuff. And I believe they also they edited it so that they make Greedo. In the remastered ones, they make it so that Greedo shoots, then Han Solo shoots, so it looks like he's good. But in the original, Han Solo just shoots him. Like Greedo never pulls the trigger. I believe that's what happened, because that's who Han Solo was. He was a smuggler. I mean, he was that was to create that sort of character transformation from a smuggler and a dealer to a rebel hero and a pilot. That sort of stuff.
Yeah, I did end up watching the original cut of A New Hope at one point, and I think it was the scene where C-3PO and R2-D2 were being sold off to Luke. And I just noticed something, like when his Aunt Beru just was calling for him and was like, make sure your uncle does this. And it's like, I'll make sure Aunt Beru, or something like that. It's like, in the original cut, it was like there were more plants in their home, and it was just greener.
Yeah, I think they may have like just tried to make it look drier, I guess.
Yeah, in the remastered version, it just looks more like there's still some plants, but it's like I think in the remastered version they just tried to convey like, oh, this is just a desert planet.
No, definitely.
And all that.
I'm just hoping that the original cuts don't get lost. Something that happens with like with like people like, okay, I'm gonna go into something different. Something I was looking at with the original trilogy was like 4K restorations, and there's people out there companies that take old movie reels, like when they were put on film with original cameras from 1980s to everything previous. These companies will take those old reels from warehouse and stuff, and they will process them. and they will put them into digital format. And there have been companies that have been doing that for the original trilogy, which is something that's really cool. But anyways, I'm not sure how that would all work out with, of course, copyright and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, there would definitely be some legal trouble with that.
Yeah. But
yeah, and I was just thinking about this too, like in the theatrical cut, the original cut. Emperor Palpatine looked significantly different.
oh yeah, wasn't he was revealed in
In Empire Strikes
Empire
Back.
on the hologram? Yeah, I remember seeing that. That's funny.
Yeah,
He looks
I'm
so
curious.
different. Oh, they tried to
Yeah.
match him with. I believe they tried to match him. Well, it was remastered, so they. I don't think they remastered all of them at the same time. So for Empire Strikes Back, they obviously would have remastered it after they did A New Hope. They tried to match it, of course, for I don't know the actor's name, but the actor who played Palpatine / Darth Sidious in the prequels, episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, and he looked significantly. Like I'll show an image for the audience, but for those watching, but if you see this, you can see the comparison between the original cut Palpatine and then the remastered cut Palpatine. It's a significant difference because, like, one, they're different actors, and two,
Yeah,
they just look just significantly different from one another.
that totally just reminded me of two other things. One of them I already mentioned. Jabba the Hutt, I always forget because more recently we always see him as CGI in the remastered original trilogy. He was originally like this big sort of puppet, which is weird.
Yeah,
when
I
you look
remember
back.
that.
And so that's something. And then the other thing you reminded me because of Palpatine was that at the end of Return of the Jedi, when there's the Force ghosts, like, so Luke is burning Darth Vader, Anakin, his father. And he sees the Force ghosts of Yoda, Obi-Wan, and then Anakin.
Gosh, this one kind of bothers
They
me.
replaced the original Anakin, which I can't even remember now because it's been so long since I've seen the original, and they replaced it with Hayden Christensen, who played, of course, Anakin in episodes 1, 2, and 3, the sequel trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, that kind of bugs me a little bit after having seen the original footage, because it's like, I mean, how does Luke even know if that's his father or not? Because he never saw any, like, pictures of
I mean,
of his father or anything, and it's like, for some reason, it's just the old man Anakin, or just kind of makes more sense to me.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, so sort of like what I was saying with, like, the remastered Halo and remastered Call of Duty Modern Warfare earlier. I think this is cool to have this sort of remastered version, even though it's not like a huge overhaul to the movies. It would be, again, nice if we could just have access to the original ones. And I'm hoping that's, like, something maybe that surfaces. I don't know if it will, though. I don't know if it
like
will.
have a, like, if, like, just a hypothetical here, but if Disney were to, like, release the original cut of it, I think they would probably, like, do Star Wars, the original trilogy, the original cut, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, they could also totally make some money off it. Like, if they released it in theaters.
Oh, yeah, they could.
They could totally bring that back.
They could.
Yeah.
They would most definitely make more money with the original cuts of the original trilogy.
Definitely.
Oh, boy.
Well, speaking of trilogies, I think it's time we transition to the next thing, unless you have something to add.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's transition to, I guess, more George Lucas related stuff. Something that we thought would be cool to bring up is what we're calling the original sequel trilogy. You want to kick that off?
Yes. Oh, boy. Now, I was aware of this quite a while ago, But turns out that quite some time ago that George Lucas had the idea for a sequel trilogy before the one we got.
Yeah, and so anyways, this is of course was such a cool talking point that Aiden thought of, and so we did some more research on it, and we have some interesting focus points that we want to share with you all. That, like, for example, the first thing I'll show is that George Lucas, for his original plans of the sequel trilogy, one of the main differences was that it would be in a different time period. As we know, the sequel trilogy, that episodes 7, 8, and 9 that we all know, takes place 30 years after Return of the Jedi. George Lucas's original plan was for the sequel trilogy just to take place a couple of years after Return of the Jedi. And that sort of makes sense looking back at it with, like, what actually happened in the sequel trilogies. I feel like it makes sense for that just to happen a couple of years after. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and for some reason that just, having heard of that, that just happens to just make more sense to me. Because it's like, oh, hey, we get to see what happens and how they rebuild after the fall of the Empire and defeating them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's just like, oh, we get to see them rebuild the Republic, see how Luke figures out all the fixing the Jedi Order, rebuilding it.
Yeah, that was another thing. Yeah, we sort of have a list of main points that we wanted to bring out. Well, one of them was Luke rebuilding the Jedi Order. Now you could say, oh, we talked about that in, for example, the Last Jedi. Well, we saw the aftermath. We knew that he began like a Jedi Order training camp in a sense, and that it failed. But from what we understand, George Lucas's original plan, was going to be like actually showing him training Jedi.
Yeah. And from what I'm reading on the article that you provided me, Kyle, it's apparently it's Luke is the last Jedi, and even though, like, we know that Leia is Force sensitive and all that, she didn't receive any Jedi training like Luke has or anything, it turns out. So she didn't, unlike Rise of Skywalker, in this sequel trilogy, Leia wouldn't have received Jedi training, which, to be honest, I think makes more sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was talking about the way his plans were laid. I was talking a lot about also not just Luke rebuilding the Jedi Order, but a lot of focus on Princess Leia as not just a princess and a rebel leader, but as a New Republic leader. I believe they used the term Chancellor, but focusing on her rebuilding what was once the Empire into the New Republic as a democracy, and focusing on her leadership. Versus in the sequel trilogy, we see her immediately as a resistance leader again. We don't get to see her as someone at a Senate building at the New Republic or a Capitol. It's immediately back to being a rebel, which is a little weird when you think about it.
Then again, I think they just shoot, come on, brain, what am I trying to say? Oh, what I'm trying to say is that I think what they were intending, like with this sequel trilogy we have now, is doing something familiar.
I guess sort of, yeah. They weren't trying to... That obviously, George Lucas's plans were just trying to build something brand new for the next set of movies. And this, like you said, was sort of building on the same recipe, and unfortunately doing the whole thing. Same recipe, transitioning to new characters. Like a new cast, which was totally the whole thing with Poe, Finn, and Rey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And... yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, I get that they want to try and introduce new characters, but it's like, I feel like with what George Lucas could have done, I think he could have done something like, yeah, it would still be familiar, but I think changing things up and just showing the aftermath of the Empire falling and how our characters are holding up, like Luke, Leia, Han, all the original cast.
That ties into the other main thing that we found was that the original sequel trilogy, George Lucas' plans, was going to focus a lot on stormtrooper remnants. Now, yes, in the sequel trilogy, they had the First Order, but something cool about this is this sort of ties into what we've seen in The Mandalorian, for example, and it would focus a lot on stormtrooper groups and Imperial factions, like remaining ones, sort of fighting out against the New Republic. And this would make sense, especially since this sequel trilogy would just take place a couple years after the Return of the Jedi. It's not like everything's going to collapse at once. And this would be this would totally be cool for us to see, like, how would the New Republic, after defeating the main leadership, take out the little remaining bits.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, it would make sense, because it's like, oh gosh, now I'm thinking of, like, I'm thinking of Halo 4 now, like, and I'm in a similar sense.
Totally, go ahead, make the connections.
So, in Halo 4, for Halo players out there, we end up fighting something similar to, like, a First Order, or just, like, people who are, like, coming from the ashes of the old Empire or something. Like, because in Halo 3, the Covenant and the UNSC had a truce, but then in Halo 4, we're fighting elites again, and so now there's a new Covenant of sorts. And so it's like, what I'm trying to say is that not everybody's going to just give up on the original beliefs of certain, like, organization, faction, or whatever. And that there's still going to be people who are going to fight against the New World Order or something like that.
Yeah. No, but that I like that connection, because that totally ties into what I'm thinking, though, is like with how the sequel trilogy turned out. They made it 30 years later and decided to all of a sudden make it so that there's a First Order all of a sudden, which, when you think about it, we didn't really have any explanation. All of a sudden, there's a brand new massive army that the New Republic has to fight. And I'm going to connect that to Halo. I know we're talking Star Wars, but with Halo 3, that original trilogy, one of the most popular video game trilogies of all time, we had a closure, we had peace, and then all of a sudden we jumped to Halo 4, which is multiple years later, and we have this brand new big boss and all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I think, yeah, Star Wars wasn't the only, like, big franchise to sort of take this approach. And I feel like that sort of hurt things in the long run.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, most definitely. Yeah, and I think with the underground stormtroopers idea, I think this would have been pretty interesting because, you know.
Yeah, well, it totally would have made them.
Remnants of the Empire. Remnants of the Empire are still fighting for what they believe in, and that the New Republic is still public enemy number one.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that would have been it. In my opinion, that would have taken more work, and I'm gonna say I think Disney, when they did the Force Awakens, they decided to take the easy route, which is make a big army, and big army means lots of shooting and lots of manpower, which means you don't have to go into much detail. But if you have remnants, this means smaller armies, smaller groups. That, in my opinion, totally gives more time for character building, and what a lot of people thought was going to happen was a little bit more into the look of a stormtrooper's life, in a sense. Like, getting an idea of what it's like now that they're, in a sense, not exactly, but, like, are dealing with what the rebels had dealt with when they were fighting the Empire.
Right. Well, and I also heard that unlike the sequel trilogy that we got, where the First Order rises to power and all that, the original idea that George Lucas had would have prevented the Empire from reaching its goal of returning to full strength, and that any of the remaining remnants of the Empire would have just died out or something.
No, yeah. Oh, that reminds me. The final main point has to do with the antagonist, Darth Maul,
Oh boy.
and Darth
Yep.
Talon. I know I keep throwing stuff back to you, but like that was one of the big things you found, and I want to hear what you have to say about that.
So it turns out that in the original sequel trilogy that George Lucas had, he originally intended for Darth Maul to be the main antagonist of the trilogy. And we all know how his fate landed. Or I'm struggling to find the right words here, but we all know how Darth Maul turned out in Star Wars Rebels and all that, as well as Clone Wars and heck, even Solo.
Yeah.
But mostly Rebels.
Oh yeah, and then
And
the I'm not sure if you're about to touch on this, but the other thing was that he was going to have an apprentice named Darth Talon. This may be someone, if you're listening right now, someone that you've maybe seen, like, like a photo pop up in a Star Wars article or something with legends, but pretty much, oh my god, what species is Darth Maul again? I believe she's supposed to be the same species as him, right?
yeah, wait. Talon?
Well, yeah, her name was Darth Talon, unless that's...
No, they are both completely different. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna probably butcher Darth Maul's species
unless she
name.
just painted her skin to look like... yeah.
Most likely she painted her skin to be
I don't know.
similar
I'm actually
color
forgetting
to
because I
Maul's.
just like briefly looked at like a photo of Darth Maul and a photo of her like a couple seconds ago, and now I'm back.
So
Is she like a Twi'lek?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
She is. And I know the name of the species, but for Darth Maul, but I always feel like I'm screwing it up. He is a Zabrak. It's just pretty much like a person, but with horns on their head.
Ah, yeah.
Pretty
It
much.
looks
And
like
they come
you
from
said that right. Yeah.
Yeah, and they all come from the planet of Dathomir.
Yes. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely quite an interesting thing, especially from like that's a big switch from Kylo Ren and Snoke and stuff. You got Darth Maul and Darth Talon. Oh yeah, and something that's interesting about Darth Talon that we were sort of discovering. This isn't necessarily something that George Lucas was saying, but people speculated that Darth Talon was sort of going to be used as like a canon version of Mara Jade.
Now, for those who don't get that, Mara Jade was originally a character in Star Wars that was sent to kill Luke Skywalker at some point, like during the time of the Empire.
Sent by the Emperor himself.
Oh, yes. But that didn't work out, and at some point, Mara Jade would marry Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, and so people were speculating that the joke with Mara Jade is that obviously she was written by she was first written in a comic book, and there was this videos that surfaced a couple of years back about how the original comic book writer who created Mara Jade had gotten into a creative board meeting with George Lucas and his guys, and they were pitching ideas, and the guy who created Mara Jade, the character in the comic, said, "Hey, how about we use Mara Jade?" And George Lucas, I'm not sure if he's joking, I would assume he's jokingly saying it, but he's like, get out. Like, he makes the guy leave. And pretty much, like, being like, George Lucas didn't make this guy. He didn't want Luke Skywalker to fall in love, blah, blah, blah. Luke Skywalker, like, the whole thing, don't have attachments as a Jedi. But then I think the whole idea sort of sank in, but he just wanted to make his own twist. And as we all joke about, George Lucas has a thing for Twi'leks apparently in the movie. So yeah, and the Clone Wars TV show. I mean, heck, that's just how it goes. But yeah, the speculation was that Darth Talon would sort of be the Mara Jade character in the sequels, and I guess, marry Luke Skywalker or something like that. Who knows? But that was, again,
Yeah.
speculation.
Yeah, and something else I also found out was like in this trilogy there was something like Maul and Darth Talon would do something similar that Maul did in the current timeline of Star Wars movies and films, but like fill in the power vacuum after the fall of the Empire. So like, you know, what was it? He would work with crime syndicates and all that.
Oh yeah, like Crimson Dawn and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know exactly how that would work after the fall of the Empire, but yeah, they built a lot of their strength off of that. That was sort of like the whole thing.
Yeah, and they did something similar with Maul in Clone Wars, Rebels, and heck, even Solo.
Yeah, no, yeah, Solo definitely built on that a ton. And then, of course, the Season 7 Clone Wars came out not that long after Solo. And then they sort of, instead of giving it from Maul's perspective, they gave it from the Syndicate's perspective.
Oh, my goodness.
I think that's totally an underrated thing about Solo is, like, it's definitely not the most popular. I from what I remember, I believe it lost a lot of money on that movie, but it had a lot of cool world building.
Oh yeah, and there was this that whole thing going around with like people being generally really confused as to why Darth Maul is still alive and all that. 'Cause, like, people who haven't seen Clone Wars or anything like that.
No, yeah, now I think about it, that scene where Savage goes onto that trash planet and finds Spider Maul. That actually is a weird episode. And then of course he gets his claw legs.
I actually, like, at one point I had a comic that further expanded upon that time period of Maul being cut in half and then how he managed to survive that whole time. And it was literally, from what I remember, it was just him being in half for a while before he self-constructed those spider legs that he had.
Yeesh.
And he was just full of anger and hatred.
Something they never show is how Darth Maul, something I noticed from, for example, Season 5, which is when we thought we were going to, it was the last time we were going to see Darth Maul in Clone Wars, when he takes out, oh my goodness, I'm such a bad fan. What's his name? Leader of Death Watch. Give me a second. Oh my god, I'm actually bad right now.
I know it has Vizsla at the end of it.
Vizsla, thank you.
There it is.
Anyways, but he obviously had those metal sort of claw legs.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden in Season 7, he has like regular legs. I've never understood that.
So...
And I wasn't sure if that had to do with his fight against Palpatine, where like Savage dies, because that was something that Dave Filoni originally was going to build upon, but of course the show got canceled.
Yeah, well, so... The reason that there was the switch between those like claw-looking legs and those the regular-looking legs that he got, it turns out that when Death Watch found them floating through space, his claw-like legs were damaged, and so they just Death Watch replaced those legs with regular-looking ones.
Oh, wait. Oh, I'm mixing things up. So he got the claw legs from the Night Sisters?
Yeah, from Mother Talzin.
That makes sense. I totally forgot about that. Because I remember when they were floating through space, and I remember that they were getting repaired. For some reason, I thought he kept the claw legs still. I don't know why. Yeah, you're right.
Ooh.
You're right. I was just mixing things up. Never mind.
No, you're good, man. You're good. And yeah.
No, yeah,
Let's see.
that would have been going back to it. That would have been cool to see Maul in a movie, especially bringing him back, especially with how iconic he was. Like I feel like he was sort of like the iconic character that Boba Fett was for the original trilogy, in a sense.
Yeah, and apparently the what I also found out is that the George Lucas had a different way of ending Darth Maul's story rather than just killing him off like they did in Rebels. And let's see.
Well, yeah, the whole Rebels thing was pretty much once he knew that, well, yeah, once he sold Star Wars to Disney and he was sort of like put on the side, he just had Dave Filoni do the Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul fight just to, I guess, sort of end
Oh
the
yeah.
character. Who knows? Maybe George Lucas was like, I don't want anyone using my character. Let me stop this now. Who knows? I mean, in his defense, he's like, I don't want people ruining my work. Just build something new.
Yeah. Yeah, and that would make sense. Huh. Let's see.
You still looking at that one thing?
Yeah, I'm still looking at that one thing, and let's see.
Well, once you find that one thing, I think we're just about wrapped up for today.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, so apparently that this sequel trilogy could have rewritten Star Wars canon in a different way.
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because according to this article, here's what it says. Prior to the recent films and TV shows, there was a massive extended Star Wars universe that spread across the galaxy through comics, video games, and books. This storyline followed the main players in Star Wars as they grow up, have families, and help change the galaxy for the better after overthrowing the Empire. And as we mentioned before, there was Mara Jade getting married to Luke Skywalker. That was one of the things that happened. Oh, and apparently, what was it? Luke and Mara had a son named Ben Skywalker. So,
oh, yeah.
Guess Disney reused the name for Kylo.
Oh my god. Wait, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, they didn't. I think I heard about it a couple years ago. I think I heard about like that before The Force Awakens came out. Like I knew about that back then. I haven't really thought about it since. I was like, oh, Ben Solo. Interesting. Oh my goodness, they stole that. That's so bad when I think about that. Like they just totally come on.
Yeah, and then apparently Han and Leia had like 3 children instead of just Kylo. It was Jason, Jaina, and Anakin. Because,
Okay, Anakin the second or something like that.
Maybe something like that. I don't know. And then there was this thing where Jason, I think he was the oldest of the Solo Skywalker children, got corrupted by the dark side and ended up killing Mara Jade at some point.
Whoa.
And then it was Jaina, who is also, I just found out, is Jason's twin sister.
Oh, yeah. This is bringing back stuff I remember reading a while ago.
Yeah, and she ended up killing him and stopping his reign of terror.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. That I think that's something we could definitely explore more in the future. Just the whole Mara Jade thing and in the comics, like that's such an interesting. I remember I was reading. Of course, Star Wars releases their encyclopedias now and then. I was reading one that was sort of like it went over the prequels. It ran. This was like an older one, I think, from 2005. So it went over like the original trilogy, then it went over the prequels, and then it had a section dedicated for expanded universe, which is something you don't see that often. And they had a whole section on Mara Jade and stuff like that. And it's sort of
Yeah.
weird. Like, when you look at new encyclopedias, I don't think they really include that stuff anymore.
Yeah, because following the acquisition of Lucasfilm, Disney doesn't consider those stories to be canon anymore.
Oh, yeah, they've totally... I mean, the comics and stuff, it's unfortunate. I feel like they've totally fallen off.
Yeah, to be honest, I think a lot of people are thinking about this, but I think having Starkiller being canon would have been pretty interesting too, like being part of this extended universe.
That would be so cool.
Well, and it's like I have played both Force Unleashed games as well. And it's like, yeah, I could understand why, but at the same time, please make Starkiller canon in some way.
Remind me, because I haven't played the Force Unleashed games, and
So pretty much,
I understand like what happens. Like I've watched bits and pieces. Is there something specific about? Does that have to? Was the Clone Uprising in the Force Unleashed series, or is this separate? Am I thinking something separate? I know I'm tying
Clone
things.
Uprising.
Or was that in like? Oh shoot!
This was like no, the Force Unleashed was during
With
like
the Empire.
when the Emperor was
Yeah.
the Empire was at full power.
I swore
And
there
they
was
were-
something with Camino in the Force Unleashed, unless I'm thinking of it different.
That was
game.
in Force Unleashed 2, actually.
Okay.
Well, so pretty much the whole thing, even for those listening and watching, Force Unleashed follows the secret apprentice to Darth Vader, Galen Merrick, otherwise known as Starkiller. And pretty much he just goes on this this journey, and he's like originally like Vader's personal assassin.
Sort of like Asajj Ventress for Dooku.
Yeah, something like that. Well, apprentice and personal assassin. I should put it like that. And so Vader sends Starkiller to kill off any remaining Jedi that may cause a threat. But then over time, it's like Starkiller questions his place as Vader's apprentice. Or something like that. I haven't played the Force Unleashed games in a long time.
I'll pick up both games, and we can make an episode on that in a little bit.
That would be awesome.
I mean, obviously that says something to our viewers about, at least for me, for sure, our age. Obviously, we're huge Star Wars fans, but we haven't been here since the very beginning of Star Wars. We're not that old.
Oh gosh, no.
But we do our best to go back as far as we can, especially with the movies and the media. And for me, like, I'm trying to go back and play the old games. I've done a lot of reading old comics, and I mean, there's obviously a lot to cover.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a lot to cover. Like, even with all that is no longer considered canon, there is still quite a lot to cover.
Oh yeah, so much.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
I think we're finished up for today.
Yep. That is all. Thank you all so much for listening.
Covered the original trilogy, covered the sequel trilogy. That was good stuff.
Yeah, that was good stuff. I had a good time talking about this.
That was fun. We went off with way more than I thought we could have, which I'm really happy about.
Yeah. Yeah. So, for everyone watching and listening, thank you very much for tuning in. If you are new around here, for those of you watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. And if you're also interested, we're also on Spotify, so you can listen to us ramble about Star Wars related things on the go.
Yep, go check it out. It's always awesome.
Yeah, and let's see, what else is there? New episodes are posted every week at 1 p.m. Northern Standard Time. Mountain Standard Time. Why did I think of Northern Standard Time?
Every 2 weeks. 2 weeks, correct?
Yeah.
We're doing 2 weeks?
Yes, every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. We're not that
So-
fast, folks, but maybe
Yeah.
at one point we could do every week, but we're trying to make sure we get good content for every
And
episode.
yeah. It's, well, anyway, thank you all so much, Star Wars fans, for listening, and we'll see you again in a galaxy far, far away.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your time listening to us.
All right. May the Force be with you.